hello everyone. Tim Harridge here. I am at a very interesting place right now. I am standing in the living room of an Airbnb property in San Antonio that I'm working on getting ready. And due to some scheduling things, this is where we'll be doing the mastermind from. So, the good news is we have Wi-Fi. The bad news is we have bad sound. So if someone would just like chat and let me know you can hear me, and then I'll get my screen up and we'll get started. So if you could just go into the Q&A or the chat and just say, yeah, I can hear you, Tim. Okay. Raising your hand, I'm guessing that is the same. Thanks, Zip. All right. So let me get my screen up. Okay. Let me share. All right, so now someone let me know that you can see the, yep, I think you knew what I was going to say, didn't you? All right, so let me get this going, get the recording started, and then we will start. So, there we go. Technology is great, except for when it's not. So you'll have to please forgive me. I'm getting a crazy circle. All right, new share, PowerPoint slideshow. Share. All right. So I've got my headphones on so that we don't get as much of an echo. For those of you waiting for me to get this going, I'll show you around just a little bit. So this is the way we bought it. It's been pretty well demoed out. At least for what we're going to demo. You can see lots of shiplap in there. So we're going to completely gut out this bathroom, try to repurpose the shiplap. That's my office for the day. And then for the Chip and Joanna fans around, there's more shiplap. So, and some knob and tube wiring. If you see that, that's going to cost me a pretty penny, but it's all the name of the game. So thank y'all for joining me. I'm trying to get this thing to go live. Let's see. There we go. All right, I got a lot of Q&A. You can hear me good. That's good. Hey, Ross, how are you today? I gotta plug this computer back in. So we're gonna. Hey, Wendy, how are you? All right, so I think I've got this figured out. All right, so let me know that you can see the REI Mastermind slide. Someone just say yes or no or something, just so I can move on. Talking skeletons, just kidding. Thanks. All right, you can see part of it. You can see part of the PowerPoint slide, Zip. Now, Russ says yes. All right, so we'll get started. All right, so for tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about, oh, wait, I have to start back for the recording because people that watch the recording don't have to hear all my craziness. All right, Tim Harridge here, REI Masterminds. Going to talk a little bit about case studies, talk about the group. I see we have a couple of our group members on, so we'll bring a couple of them on to just talk about the group, share a little bit, and then we'll get rolling. So we're going to talk about a case study, then a case study, then a case study. I'll talk to you a little bit about the group schedule that's coming up for REI Masterminds, give you a little overview of the group, and then we'll dive into Q&A and let some of the group members come on, share a little bit about themselves, et cetera, and I can tell you how you can join us at our next meeting. So I'll talk about this house first. It's definitely not the house in the picture because the house in the picture is way too nice. The house on Strand is set to close. I'm looking down at my notes. Is set to close February 2nd. It's a house that I bought for $105,000. We spent about $2,500 fixing it up and sold it for $145,000. That's what you would call a wholesale transaction. Bought it off my postcards. We send about 5,000 postcards a week in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, not even Dallas-Fort Worth. I'd be remiss to say Dallas-Fort Worth. In the Dallas area. That's really that's my prime acquisition area. So there was a while there where I was branching out into Fort Worth, but just decided it wasn't the right kind of modem for me. And so kind of spent August and September dialing my list back, really kind of trying to hone in on my perfect house. And really since then, we've done a lot. We've had a lot more success buying houses. Our response rates have gone way back up. So I would say if you're struggling with maybe direct mail or your marketing method, you know, it's probably time to take a look at it because I would say during the run-up, you know, 12, 13, 14, et cetera, really we could advertise anywhere and get away with it because really any house in Dallas-Fort Worth was an acquisition candidate because of just the surging property values and the surging property values and the just hyperinflation. One second. Yeah. Tomorrow in the morning. Okay, I'm on the phone. All right. That was the fence contractor to let me know that he's going to come back tomorrow because that's why I'm still here. They weren't done and they wanted to get paid today. And if you rehab houses, you know all about that. So, yeah, so I mean, Strand was a good deal. We really dialed in our postcard marketing really starting in October. It took August, September kind of to fix it. I think it got broken because we got a little too aggressive. Our response rates were starting to drop because I think we were casting too wide of a net. I think that's important when you're doing direct marketing to sellers that you really you kind of to use a fishing term, you fish, you bow fish, right? You use a bow and arrow to shoot the fish you want instead of casting a really broad net because the really broad net can end up just you catch a lot of things you don't want, honestly. So that's what we did with our postcards. It's been paying dividends since then. So that house is scheduled to close on February 7th. We bought it like December 15th or 10th, something like that. The interesting thing about it is when you sell these houses kind of as is, people still get an inspection, but the negotiation is just a little bit easier because this realtor, she wasn't that good. She asked for everything on the inspection report. And, you know, if there's a health and safety issue that's discovered in the inspection process that we feel like isn't something they could have known or seen, we'll consider repairing it. but like they asked, there was a cracked tile that they wanted us to replace. Obviously, we didn't do that because that cracked tile was there and visible whenever they put the contract on the house. They asked us to repair some of the exterior siding. We didn't do that because, that's the way it was when they got there. But in the same token, the central heat and air was not functioning properly. It was off by like 5-10 degrees. So they asked us to have a tech come look at it. So we agreed to that. So I think, it's a common sense approach to the inspection process, but I've found that some of my highest margin transactions in the last 12 months have come from wholetailing, and it's definitely an important part of my business. Let's see, that's Strand. Rupley. So this is a super interesting deal that I've got to do more of as the market kind of tightens and competition widens. This is a deal that it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on the corner of a busy street, frame house, no garage, bad garage conversion, but there was just a lot of value there. I mean, I felt like if it was fixed all the way, it would be worth about $180,000. So what we did is I went ahead and just bought the house for $100,000, spent $1,000 cleaning it out, and then just offered it on owner financing for $140,000. So, definitely some embedded equity. Well, I need to go back. So on the Strand deal, we felt like this one was worth about $165,000, but it was clean enough and structurally sound. The mechanicals and structure were good enough to pass a conventional loan, so that's why we went that route. On this one, it was not structurally sound. It had a lot of problems, honestly. And so what we did is, that's why I chose to go the owner finance route, because in my mind, then you don't have to deal with inspections, and you're probably going to get a handy individual that is more than willing to do the work if they can get a good deal. So that's why we chose this route. The purchaser didn't really have credit, had a good construction job. We were able to get 10%, $14,000 down, sold it on a 30-year note at, I want to say 9.5 interest. But anyway, collected 3 payments, seasoned up the note, and then, we sold the note at a $10,000 discount to a private investor. And you may be thinking, okay, a $10,000 discount, that's not all that great. But the thing is when you look at their risk component, the individual had put $14,000 down, 10%, and had already made 3 payments and had already improved the property to the tune of $10,000 to $15,000, because they fixed the foundation, they put in a new fence, they put in a sliding gate, that kind of thing. So that investor, even just getting a $10,000 discount, was able to hit a 12% yield on buying the note. So it worked for that investor's numbers. So and that investor's kind of got a standing order with me now. Anything I can kind of put together like that, he wants to buy. So it's kind of a good deal for me, and it's a good deal for him. He's able to place the capital he wants to place and have enough equity. His loan to value is good enough that if the borrower did default and if he had to take it back, he would do okay. Let me try to get back here to my slide. Then there's this house, this Lepanto house. This is like the house that would never go away. It took about 8 months to get done. And it's a good lesson. I always tell people, I joke around, my REI education kind of my mentality is just about the same as I do with my children. It's do as I say, not as I do. So this is an interesting house. When we first bought it, we bought it for $82,000. We knew it was worth in the 170s. We thought it needed about 40 to 50,000 in work. And so the idea was to offer it on a wholetail basis. So we were going to offer it on a wholesale basis, and just like the Strand transaction I was telling you about. And what happened was we replaced the roof. Well, we only had a $6,000 budget for the roof. Well, of course, there's rotten decking and all the soffit and fascias falling off the house, so it ends up being $11,000. Well, then we start trashing out the house, and there's sheetrock falling down, and there's rotten floorboards, and so the trash out's like $6,000 instead of $2,500 because we knew it was going to be a significant trash out. So then at that point, I was still giving instructions. I hired someone to be the project manager, and I was still giving instructions as if we were going to wholetail it. At that point, after I'd spent that much money, the smart thing to do would have been to stop, reassess, and go ahead and say, okay, no, we're going to retail the house. So then we started doing some little repairs. They were the wrong repairs for that asset. It just kind of started snowballing to where there was me and the project manager, and then this other contractor I got involved, ended up dealing with me, but not talking to the project manager. So we had kind of contractors tripping over themselves. It's just that entrepreneurial ADD that I suffer from, and I'm not ashamed of. So that house, I probably cost myself $10,000 or $15,000 by doing things twice. We had a massive termite issue. We had to replace the gas yard line. We had rotten seal plates, rotten subfloor. Rotten subfloor we didn't find until after we had put the tile down. So then we literally had to rip up brand new tile and fix the subfloor and then put the tile back down. So, all in all, we made money, but I can't tell you how many afternoons that project pulled me away from new business. How often that project pulled me away from things that I needed to be focused on. And I think that's the real lesson there, is to, a lot of times with a house, with an asset, with a project, with an investment vehicle, things are going to change. And when they change, it's just like with anything. Sometimes you have to stop, get off the highway, kind of reassess, and then start again. And that's what I did wrong. That's what I don't even know if I can say I did it wrong. It's definitely what I should have done different. Because had I done it different, we would definitely be in a much better situation. But I didn't. So there's really no crying over spilled milk. More problems. So then that didn't work. I just messed up my computer. So then I go to start with, we sell the house, the inspection's scheduled. The lady calls and says, or the realtor, not the lady, the realtor calls and says, hey, the utilities aren't on. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course the utilities are on. I was just there 2 days ago. Well, apparently for 6 months, we had still been using the original owner's gas, water, everything. It was just crazy. I mean, so then the inspection has to get rescheduled. Well, by then the gas is turned off. So now after the inspection's scheduled, because we're told the gas is going to be on a certain day, the next day It just, they go out there to inspect and they can't inspect again because now the gas isn't on because Atmos, the gas company here in Dallas, doesn't like call you and tell you they had a problem. They just leave a little note on the door and go on about their day. So the reason they didn't leave the gas on and they locked the meter instead was they noted a gas leak. So then it took me another week to get the gas leak located and figured out that it was in the yard line. Then, of course, we're in December and it rained for a week, so no one could get out there and dig up the yard line and replace it. So that was like another week. Well, now we've had to move the closing date back to in between Christmas and New Year's, which if you've tried to close a conventional mortgage with in between Christmas and New Year's, you know it's virtually impossible. And so then, you know, just then, right, it just keeps going and going. So we finally got it closed last week. And it's hard. You make it really hard on yourself when, you know, in my case, I get complacent and I stop following my checklist. In a newer investor's case, maybe they don't have a checklist to follow. And so I know better. I know better than to not get the confirmation numbers, go through the process, make sure that, you know, my assistant kind of checks all the boxes. But we were only going to own it for a month, and it was kind of a different deal, and there was extra people involved. And you just see how kind of all of these, it's a comedy of errors, but it ends up being kind of a freight train of errors where, it can make you lose money. And we got lucky. We bought this house at a price point that we could, you know, we had a margin for error for sure. But, you know, I did a lot of things wrong. And in my business, when I do something wrong, my wife is typically the one that finds out I did something wrong. And so I will not tell you that she is a kind person when it comes to pointing out what I've done wrong. So, just a word to the wise, if you think that you're going to be working with your spouse or significant other, there are times that it can be quite painful, for sure. But that's just, you know, the deal worked out. We had some people mad at us on this because, you know, people don't like to think they have a job and then they show up and they don't have a job because the other guy already called another electrician to come do the job. And then there was the issue of the project manager thought that I was handling something that I thought the project manager was handling. So I think, you know, the lesson there, as I've talked to my wife, Jennifer, and as I would tell you, is number one, expect to keep making mistakes, even if you've been doing this for 20 years. But number two, you know, when you start to feel something going sideways, you know, Jennifer and I talked about it actually last night before I left to come down here to San Antonio. When you start to feel something going sideways, oftentimes it's best to say, wait, and just kind of stop everything and just breathe and just throw the old budget out, sit down, have a conversation, and really kind of come up with a new plan. And you can't look back. The time to look back is after the house is sold. If you want to kind of have an after action debrief, that's a great time to look back. But the time to look back is not in the heat of the battle, right? In the heat of the battle, you just stop, you reassess, you line everything out, and you say, this is the way we're going forward. And whether you have a spouse, a wife, a husband, a significant other, a business partner that you don't sleep in the same bed with, that's not the time to blame. It's not the time to be angry. It's not the time to get your pound of flesh if you were the one that didn't do something wrong. That's the time that everybody needs to, you know, cooler heads prevail, sit down, have a meeting, you know, and just say, you know, we've got to figure this out, because at the end of the day, you got to figure it out, right? Because I mean, that's just that's just what you got to do. So I'd tell you, if you get in a transaction where things start going sideways, do your best to just stop, back up, come up with a new plan, acknowledge that the old plan doesn't work, and then, you know, and then move forward. And also, you know, in this comedy of errors, the hidden expense that many investors don't account for or budget for is holding costs. One of the reasons I'm standing here in this house right now is we're way behind schedule, and the taxes on this house are $7,200 a year, right? So that's, you know, $600 a month. They're like 71 something. I rounded up to make it an easier math. And that's $600 a month. The interest carry on this house is $1,200. And the utilities are like $300 by the time you pay for, we've got internet and stuff here. So what happens is, you know, we're burning probably $2,200 a month to have this house sit here. And so then the interesting thing is, oftentimes you'll wait a month to save $2,000 and get multiple bids on things, when really and truly, when you look at the profit and loss statement, it may have been better to, you know, just to pay the little extra and get it done, and minimize your holding costs. So that's just Tim Harridge's advice. Take it for what it's worth. That was my biggest train wreck recently. I've got another train wreck that I could definitely share with you, and I will share in our private mastermind group, not the public event, because there's a house that I recently bought, and things went sideways with the contractor, and we are literally upside down $100,000. And yes, that was 100, zeros. It's about 120,000 actually, but so look, I mean, there's real problems out there, and that's kind of a good segue, because that's why I am a part of REI Masterminds, and it's why I formed the group, because I'm lucky to be around some people that may have already dealt with problems that I'm dealing with. I can bounce ideas off of, or, you know, just share war stories and have someone that understands the problems that I'm going through. But, you know, if you do enough in this business, I mean, you know, out of every 10 transactions, one goes wrong. I lose money on houses regularly. Many times, it's not because here's the thing. I'm going to say this. Many times I choose to lose money not because there isn't another solution, but it's because I know that if I don't get that out of my mind, if I don't get it off my daily plate, I won't have the mindset to continue making money. There's a book by Brian Tracy, not Brian Tracy. Is it Brian Tracy? Eat That Frog. Oh my God, my mind, it's escaping me. But Eat That Frog is just basically saying that, you know, if the worst thing you have to do I'll summarize the whole book for you, right? If the worst thing you have to do every day is eat a greasy, nasty, slimy frog, you should get up and eat the frog first thing, because then you can go about your day with a positive mindset and open to new opportunity. If you don't, all day long, all you can think about is eating that frog. And well, that's the problem, that when you're in a bad deal, a bad real estate transaction, or any deal, if you let it hang around and linger, it keeps you from making good deals. It keeps you from getting involved into other things. And Richard Weeks, who I respect and love. He worked for me for about a year and a half, 2 years when I ran 2020 REI Group, maybe 3 years. I'm horrible at dates. When we were talking about downsizing our corporate lease from a $9,000 a month behemoth lease to a $3,000 a month, much more manageable lease, I was really unhappy with the deal terms that the landlord was offering us. And, you know, between me and the fence post, I was getting a little agitated. And Richard kind of patted me on the arm and looked at me and said, Tim, sometimes getting out of a bad deal is a good deal. And, you know, it really resonated with me because, I mean, he was right. Because I was in a bad deal, and that bad deal is what I wanted to get out of. So, you know, sometimes, I'll tell you, taking a bad deal that gets you out of something that you don't want to be in is actually a good deal. So I know that's convoluted. I'm probably not explaining it properly, but, you know, when Richard said to me, sometimes getting out of a bad deal is a good deal, or no, sometimes a good deal is getting out of a bad deal. It really stuck with me. And, hey, who knows? Maybe one day you'll think it stuck with you as well. And you can credit Richard Weeks for that. So I've beat the dead horse long enough. We'll move on. So REI Masterminds, kind of what is it? So we've got a call on Monday, January 27th, 8 a.m. We kind of took a member poll, something I'm going to continue to do on and on and on and on. It's a group call. You know, I'd tell you less than half of the members actually, you know, dial in. And the reason is they don't have to. We record all the calls. We post them in the, you know, we post them in the portal, and people can watch them when they want to. Now, sometimes people have a burning question or 016. I have to type this code in. You know, sometimes people have a burning question or a problem that they have to kind of solve. And when they have to do that, then I think a lot of times they find a way to dial in. So anyway, I don't know why I'm going on and on about that. I was trying to go live on Facebook with this webinar, and it just made me reset my password. It was awesome. Technology at its finest, folks. So then we have another call in the evening on Wednesday. So it was about a 50-50 thing on the voting, where people wanted it on a weekend or a weekday or or at night. So the way I'm doing it from this point forward, starting in February, because we just changed it, we were having a once-a-month call. Now the second Wednesday of the month will be an evening call, and the fourth Monday of the month will be a morning call. So it should at least make it where everyone in the group can attend one call. That's just the hope. So I think I've found a way to really kind of meet everyone's desires. We are going to meet in person twice a year. We'll also live stream it for those that just can't make it in. We've got members in Pennsylvania, in Illinois, in California, in New York, in Arkansas. We've got members across the nation. So we want to make it accessible. We'd really like to get everyone here. So the next meeting is February 27th. We'll have dinner the night before. Probably right now we're leaning towards doing something in conjunction with Quest IRA because they're $1 trillion mixers the night before, but that's not set in stone. And then we'll be meeting every 6 months. So then in August, we'll do a weekend. So we have members that can't attend weekend meetings because of either family commitments or religious obligations. So we want to honor that and do one weekend meeting and then a weekday meeting. So that's kind of where we're at now. We know that, I mean, some of the so if you own 5 or more rental properties, you're in the top 5% of investors in the nation, right? So that's just, but what we also know is many people that own 15, 20, 30 properties still have full-time jobs. And so we want to make this group where it kind of lets everyone in, and is helpful for everyone. So that's just the schedule. That's what we do. If you want to join, you'll get a link in the email after this. It's $99 a month. Cancel anytime. You can attend all of the calls, any call and every call. Everything gets recorded and posted. I'm horrible at selling this stuff. You'll get, access to our Facebook group and an online portal, and I'll take your call when you call, if that means anything to you. But, I think the biggest thing is you get to be a part of a community of active people. We've got people who have done deals with each other already, including multi-family syndications in Florida. So that's what it's for, is to get everybody back. So yes, so of the several dozen, 50 some odd people that have joined, I've had 2 ask for their money back. I don't ask you any questions. I just log in and I send you your last $99 back. That's just the way it works. So if you joined the 28th of January, you could literally attend 1, 2, 3 conference calls and the in-person meeting. And after that, you said it wasn't worth the money, Tim. I send you your $99 back, and we go our separate ways. It's I don't want your money if you're not happy, and I don't want you, and I don't want you in the group if you're not happy, because it's got to be a positive place. I don't have time for negativity. I never have. So I'm going to dive into these questions real quick. But what I'm going to do now is hop in here to the participant pane, because I'm going to make some people a panelist that I know are members, because some of them I know will actually talk. Some of them I know will hide, which it's all the same. Let's see. Oh, there's Patrick. If I missed you, let me know. Some of you are dialed in, so I don't know who you are if you didn't enter the, yeah. So if I missed you, let me know. It tells me some of you have. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the Q&A, and I'm just going to start at the top, because most of it's I can hear you. I look like an X-ray. I can hear you. 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 Can you talk louder? That may be the first time I've ever been asked that. Let's see. Hey, Israel. Hey, Israel, you got to check your email, because you bought a property from me, so you get to join the group for free. So you need to check your email. You're set. Let's get going. Thanks, Scott. All right, so now we're down to questions. If a newbie investor was doing that deal and you were the private lender, what is the best way to go back to your funder and essentially say, oops, I need more money? Okay, the absolute best way is to do it as quick as possible. Because the lender, if you're doing business with a lender that is kind of in the loan to own business, then they're going to probably smell blood in the water, and maybe you don't go tell that person that you're having problems. But for the most part, a private lender like my private lenders, they don't want to be in the business, right? They're not trying to, I hope you can still hear me. It says that I'm muted for some reason. But yeah, I mean, so they're not trying to, Patrick and Russ, just so you know that I've unmuted you. You can turn on your video if you'd like. Yeah, so most private lenders are not looking to take the property back, but if you make a mistake and you have a private lender, someone that you know can help you bridge the gap, the best way is to quickly go with a real plan, right? And say, hey, this is what I did wrong. This is what we're going to do different. And this is how we're going to make more money, or at least get our money back and not have to go through foreclosure and things like that. So that's, I mean, that to me, that's just the best way. It's just honestly and openly and quickly. Where is my checklist? Wouldn't you like to know, Wendy? No, seriously, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to send it to you. And I've got a checklist for kind of every type of transaction. How soon after probate is filed do you start mailing to the executor? Does it make sense to continue mailing to probates after 90, 120 days since probate filing? Do you buy a probate list or get them from the courthouse yourself? Okay, so way to go, Fred. You asked 9 questions in a sentence. I send a letter to the deceased as soon as they pass away, offering to buy their house, and I send them postcards once a month for 3 months, and then every other month for 3 months, and then 2 more and 3 month cycles after that. So for a year, they hear from me, but it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, I don't even know, 5, it's 6 or 7 postcards that, letters and postcards that they get from me over the course of a 12-month process. And some of the best deals you'll ever do is the one you pass on. Yeah, amen, right, Greg? You said 1 in 10 deals go bad. What's your ROI percentage? You know, Zip, I don't look at percentages, you know. So a billionaire that I talked to this morning that got me involved in Blackstone's B2R said this to me one time. He goes, you know, Tim, you cannot buy a coffee at Starbucks with a percentage. They don't talk to me about percentages. Talk to me about dollars. And there's my impression for the night. Zip, I look at everything that way now. It's just, you know, if the reward benefits the risk or it justifies the risk, you do it. So if you're really confident that you can make 10 grand in a week, do it. It doesn't matter if it's a $500,000 deal because you made 10 grand in a week. So I don't look at ROI. I don't look at percentages. It's kind of velocity of capital. It's kind of how safe is the deal. That deal on Roofly I talked about that I owner financed. I mean, like, here's the crazy part of it. I wasn't even sure that I was going to be able to make money at it, but I was just kind of like, well, I mean, it's a 3-bedroom house in Dallas for $100 grand. Surely I can't lose money. Like, literally, my friend Zach Coppinger called me about it. He's like, because I beat him on the deal. He's like, what are you going to do with it? I was like, I don't know. I think, you know, it's just got to make common sense, and you got to be willing to lose. Blackstone once told me, they said, look, we know we're going to be wrong 70% of the time. And then the guy that I was sitting down with smiled and said, that just means we have to make more decisions. Because what he's saying is, if you know you're going to be wrong, I'm sorry. He said, we know we're only going to be right 70% of the time. We know we'll be wrong 30% of the time. I said that backwards. They're not wrong 70% of the time. He says, we know we're only going to be right 70% of the time. So the whole point is, you have to be willing to take losses in order to make gains. And that's hard when you're starting out. And yes, you need to find more formulas and be a little bit more careful. But, you know, to me, I'm okay making losses. I'm okay taking risks. I'm okay, you know, and I always have been. Always have been. I mean, if you're looking at a deal and you're just not even sure about it, like, dude, straight up, Zip, just put it under option. Hand the lady $100 and say, you know what, I am not sure I can close on this. I've got to get another investor to come in on it with me, but I'll give you your asking price or whatever, you know, and get it under contract, be super honest with them, and then go out, call me if it's in Dallas, right, or call whoever it is that you get money from and take them out there and do your due diligence and then go back to them and say, hey, you know, I either got to walk or I got to get this price. And, I mean, you know, there's ways to hedge your bets. So how many calls a week or a month? Shan, that's a good question. So we have the current schedule is 2 calls a month with an in-person meeting every 6 months. The thing is, it'll probably grow. I'm talking to a couple of members about creating maybe some subgroups, because like there's one guy Sean is really big into subject 2. I don't like subject 2, but it would be good to kind of let him kind of facilitate something on that. There's a guy named Ross in the group that does, he is like an IRA guru. He speaks on stages about IRAs. So I've thought about asking him. So it's going to grow, but right now the schedule is 2 calls a month with an in-person meeting every 6 months. Would you coach or mentor on rehabbing and wholesaling too? That is a great question. No. I have coached. I have mentored. I hate it. I'll do it for you if you give me $50,000 and you tell me that you will not ask me any questions about what I tell you to do. So you're probably going to say no to that. I don't like explaining myself. That's the problem with my personality. And so when I tell someone they need to do something and they're not willing, and they pay me money to tell them what to do, and then they're not willing to do it, I don't have any patience for that. And so what I found out is I'm not a good real estate investing mentor or coach. Actually, when I mentored and coached technically the 40-something home investors franchises across the nation, I partnered with Mike Hambright, who you may know, and he did all the coaching and mentoring because he had the patience and the skill set to handle that. I didn't. Israel. Nathan, do you ever cold call, door knock for leads? Man, I have in time. So in the last year, I tried ringless voicemails. I did not like ringless voicemails. So listen, I'm not saying at all you shouldn't do anything, but I kind of live by the treat others how you want to be treated. And when I get a ringless voicemail or an unsolicited text message, it pisses me off. And so I don't want to do that to other people. When I see bandit signs on the side of the road, I think it junks up our neighborhoods and looks ugly. Unless someone comes and picks them up and they put them out within the city laws. I'll tell you, door knocking, a house that you can tell needs some work, I have no problem with that. I do that all the time when I'm in neighborhoods because I don't find that as intrusive, because you're knocking on that person's door. If they don't answer, you can leave a card or a flyer, and I don't know. I mean, I'll go knock on the neighbor's door sometimes and be like, hey, you know this guy? I mean, you think they're thinking about selling? If they answer the door, I'll, hey, my name's Tim Harridge. I'm buying houses in your neighborhood. I'm just going around trying to meet the neighbors, see if anybody else knows of any other property for sale in the neighborhood. I don't walk up and say, hey, I noticed that you've got the ugliest house on the block, and I really think you should sell to me. Obviously, don't walk up with that. But a lot of these cold calling stuff, it's highly effective. And if you are someone of a limited budget, I recommend you do it. But don't just go for like a whole town, right? Like start in a zip code and then familiarize yourself with the comps and all of that, and really make it a concerted effort to generate a warm conversation with someone that is your target customer. Shoot me the checklist, please. Peter, if you would email me, it's kind of hard for me to remember to go back, but if you email me, I can just hit reply and bam, you get it. And I'll just hit attach. Oh, you gave me your email. So I will try to remember, Peter, but if you'll email me, I guarantee you I'll reply to it. What if the private lender who is funding the deal can't bridge the gap when your deal changes as vastly as yours did? Yeah, if your private lender is tapped out and you're tapped out and everything's going sideways, I mean, it may be time to take a loss. It may be time to just fire sell the thing. You know, in my career, there's been plenty of times that I've been real estate rich and cash poor. Ken Chanel, the former president of Home Investors, used to say, real estate investing makes more millionaires out of multimillionaires than anything else. If you get it right, you're making a millionaire singular out of a multimillionaire. And it's just really easy to be cash poor. And another friend of mine, Steve Mobley, once said, you know, Tim, you can't eat equity. You know, what that means is, right, you can have a really big balance sheet with a lot of equity, but if you don't have any cash, you can't buy groceries. Yeah, I mean, you know, if the lender can't get it done, I would ask the lender if they were willing to either subordinate their debt or take on a second lien. And if not, I think you just kind of chunk through your options. And if that option is, if your only option is to fire sell it, then you fire sell it. That's my opinion. Nathan, how come you don't like subject twos? Okay, so typically a mortgage has a due on sell clause. So again, you're violating the due on sell clause, and someone could come back to you and pull the rug out from underneath your investment. As long as you do everything in accordance with the laws and you disclose, I don't have an ethical problem with it. It's just what I choose not to spend. I almost said waste. I don't mean to say waste. I choose not to spend my time on it, probably because my capital base is a little different, but also because it never set well with me. Probably, I'll tell you why. See, I'm a wounded warrior. In April of 2008, I had a bank call my line due. In April of 2008, there was no capital available at all. And, you know, I had to find a way to pay off like almost $500,000 worth of notes in 30 days when I think I had like minus $5,000 in the bank at that time because we were just losing money like crazy. So I don't like to invest in something that someone could then tell me that I have to give away or get out of. So that's probably why I don't like it, Nathan. Israel, what do you think of calling the pre-foreclosure list? I think it's a great idea. What would be the best way to do it? You buy the list from REI, and then you go to one of these skip tracing companies. RJ Bates just launched one called Titanium Trace. There's Skip Genie. I think that I can't remember there's a bunch of them out there. Just Google real estate investor skip tracing. I'm sure you'll find a million of them. What other marketing techniques or approaches do you recommend to find properties? Right now, a hot one, Israel. I mean, the house you just bought from me came from a realtor. Two of the 5 houses I bought in December came from realtors. I think there's been so many new realtors enter the market in the last 5 years. I think Texas is up like 60% of licensed agents. I'd say, you know, if you have a limited budget, but, you know, go find a realtor and get to know them and tell them that if they'll call you with any pocket listings or, you know, whatever, you'd like to work a deal with them, offer joint ventures, offer a double or commission. You know, we call that continuous business referrals. I have realtors that in my 20-year career, I have bought, you know, dozens of houses from them that they introduced to me. Nathan, what do you do with a foreclosure with no equity? You know, Nathan. You know, I don't buy them. I refer them. I mean, if I can help them with a probate, with a short sale, I typically introduce them to Nicole Espinosa over at Oyez here in Dallas. A lot of times I just tell them I can't help them, but it's because we've got enough other opportunity in front of us that you have to kind of pick what you spend your time with. And I used to, and that's actually how I know Sean, is I've sent him a lot of leads that I couldn't buy. But that ends the questions. Russell, Patrick, do y'all have anything you'd like to say?
Why don't you tell a little bit about what goes on the monthly phone call and maybe what is planned for February 27th? What the agenda will be that day?
Well, first I have to say that Russ is the only person that has ever called, that I've ever had a Zoom call with, and the cops were present on his video. Russ and I were catching up talking about opportunity zones and stuff last month. And he's like, hang on a second, these cops need to talk to me. Someone broke into one of my houses. And it was just funny. There the cops are in the background. Yeah, the Zoom calls are really just a check-in. It's kind of, everybody gets a couple minutes, say what they're working on, maybe bring up something they need help with. It's an open forum. There's not a format that we're trying to shove down anybody's throat.
Tim, somebody's walking all over. There's a lot of banging.
I just muted him. Yeah, I just muted him. So the monthly, the weekly. So now there's 2 calls a month. Those are just to catch up with your peers, with the fellow mastermind guys and gals. We've had people ask for advice on mobile homes. Heck, in December, it was just me and Daniel Klein for an hour. But it was a good call. We talked about our struggles as entrepreneurs. We talked about our struggles with time management. People, bring up things that they're weak on. And I think it's it's entrepreneurial therapy. And then at the February 27th meeting, the agenda is not finalized, but there'll be a couple what in the mastermind kind of community is referred to as a hot seat, where someone spends 5 to 10 minutes presenting their business. I've got a better format for that now that I've worked on, where someone will get up and give you a quick overview of their business. They'll tell you something they're good at. They'll tell you there's something they're bad at. They'll tell you something that they have to give, and they'll tell you something that they need. And from there, the other members of the group get to say, well, I can help you with that, or I need help with that too. And I think, to me, the collective power is when everybody starts trying to solve problems. There's a lot of people in the room that have the same problem and may not even have realized it yet. And maybe can avoid the problem altogether by hearing what someone with 100 houses did when they got to 50, if they're only at 10. And if you can, avoid that, it's good. So we're trying to get someone in that can talk about a little bit more about opportunity zones for the February 27th meeting. There's a lending company that I do, and a lot of the members do a lot of loans front through that will be coming to just kind of give a capital markets update, because they're all selling these loans to the same people, and they're seeing interest rates move and some underwriting criteria tighten up a little bit. There's a laundry list of other people, that I'm reaching out to. Russ has given me some good examples. We've got a CPA in the room now, so he's going to talk a little bit about some of the tax codes and changes that he sees coming up. A conversation that I want to have with the group, Russ, is frankly mine and your experience at planning for college to pay for our children, because as business owners, I think there's a lot of things we can do in advance that will offset the burden of higher education for our children. So I feel like that needs to be something we talk about. Estate planning, asset protection is one of those things I want to talk more about. I want to talk this next meeting. I want to talk a lot about some geopolitical considerations and there's this one guy, I can't say his name, but I really want to kind of broach the topic of what is the election going to do, right? And where are we in this cycle? Because every day you see that the Dow and the NASDAQ are up another 2%. And, what goes up must come down. It won't, I don't think the next one will crash all the way, but it's just little things that you can be prepared for, that we've got to just kind of meld into the in-person meetings. But I'm not going to make that a part of the monthly calls. I guess we can have some specialized calls, but for me, the weekly call, the biweekly calls is just a touch base and a little bit of an accountability thing, because if someone gets on there and says the same thing every other week, then it's kind of time to call them on the carpet, so to speak. I know Russ agrees.
Sounds like about $1 per topic this month.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the network is worth a whole lot more than the price, as we both know. Let's see. Well, I don't even know what time it is. I'm just running my mouth. It's 8 o'clock. I've got some people coming here. I used OfferUp and 5 Mile and Facebook Marketplace today to sell a bunch of appliances out of this thing while I was sitting here with plumbers and electricians. So I've actually got someone coming at 8:30 to pick up 2 vanities and a dishwasher. So yay. All right. Somebody raised their hand. I'm not sure if that means that you would like to talk, but I'm going to unmute you. And then, oh, you left as you raised your hand. So I guess that doesn't mean you want to talk. All right. Well, look, I appreciate everyone's time. You'll get an email giving you access to the recording of this. Russ, thanks for stepping up and talking. Patrick, thanks for staying with us throughout the entire thing. You know, if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. This isn't where I tell you it's a limited time offer or anything. You know, we want the right people in, and so we don't need any gimmicks or anything. What's my email? That's a good one. Tim@timharridge.com. In Israel, I don't think I'm going to make it back. I ended up staying the night out here, but I'll call you first thing in the morning and let you know. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a great rest of your evening.